Hi, I'm Klaus Blass and I want to show you a short demo about big data visualization, demonstrating a couple of interesting concepts like state-of-the-art 3D browser graphics, a force-based algorithm, and the use of a nifty 3D pointing device, the Leap Motion Controller. For this demonstration, I picked the behavior of share prices as the data to analyze. For each of the companies under investigation, the correlation coefficients for historical share price movements with all the other companies are calculated. Each company is represented as a little sphere at a random position in 3D space. Now an iterative force-based algorithm tries to reposition these spheres. The principal force is an attraction between any two spheres based on the strength of their share price correlation. This would eventually lead to a concentration of all spheres with mutual non-zero correlations at a single point in space. So we introduce a second force to prevent this meltdown. Imagine each two spheres to be interconnected by a spring, which is compressed as they are pushed towards each other. Spheres which are strongly correlated will succeed to compress their spring quite well, while weakly correlated spheres would be pushed fairly far apart from each other by their spring. Now, as the spheres are rearranging themselves, you can see a couple of places where some clustering seems to occur. But since we only see a two-dimensional projection of 3D space, the spheres in these apparent clusters could actually be quite spaced apart along the axis going into the screen. To safely detect clusters, you have to look at the distribution from several angles. Typically, you would use a mouse to move your camera around the scene and zooming in and out with a mouse wheel. A far more intuitive camera navigation is possible using the Leap Motion Controller. This is a tiny stereo camera recognizing your hands and finger movements. You can use your hand to rotate the camera and zoom in and out simultaneously. Now we can clearly recognize two clusters of companies whose share price movements strongly correlate. I programmed the Leap Motion Controller such that it needs to see two or more fingers to allow the camera to move around. So to freeze the scene, I just show one finger and have it stop. You can also pick any of the spheres to display information about them. Here we see that we have oil and gas companies, but with the occasional exception, like this financial services company, which may just be the kind of information you're trying to discover and which might be difficult to get at without this kind of visualization. My implementation of the Leap Motion Controller is very basic here. All I use is the position of the palm of one hand and the number of fingers shown. The controller actually gives me much more information, such as position and direction of each finger, the orientation of the hand along 3 axes, gestures such as wipes, finger taps and pokes. I could even use 2 hands as 2 independent mice at the same time. The graphics also offers a lot more than I'm using here. I'm using WebGL, which is by now integrated in almost every modern web browser on PCs, tablets and smartphones. And I also use Scene.js, a very efficient high-level scene graph-based API for WebGL. One could use color a lot more, as well as the size and shape of my objects to show more information. And I can display many more objects simultaneously. Here are 1,000 objects, and tens of thousands are possible. And of course, share price behavior is just one application for this kind of analysis. Objects could represent people in social or professional networks, and the attraction force indicating social or professional compatibility. If you come across some good idea, leave me a comment or send me an email.